afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. No matter how big or small, everyone has an estate. Your estate is comprised of everything you own: a car, a home, a checking or savings account, and other things like life insurance or your furniture. And everyone who has an estate has something in common: you cannot take it with you when you die. So on today's edition of Money Monday, we're going to focus on estate planning. We'll explore the myths and excuses and the important legal information that you need to be aware of. Joining me is certified financial planner Christine Moriarty of Bristol. Christine is the president of MoneyPiece. She's provided financial education to thousands of individuals and couples. It's great to see you again.
Thanks, Judy, for having me. This is an important topic.
Huge. What is estate planning?
Estate planning is taking care of everything you own to pass it to the next generation or wherever you want it to go. So an estate is just things you own. That includes this watch, you know, your glasses, everything you own has to be passed, and just planning ahead for where it's going to go.
Doesn't it just automatically go to your family?
Legally, there are some issues along that line. And one is, who is your family? Your kids, your spouse, if you're a widow, who gets it, if you have siblings. There are so many details, and life's so complicated. A lot of times there's young children, so who is going to care for the young children? If you don't decide,
right,
the courts decide for you.
And so estate planning is not just for somebody who's retired, though.
Absolutely not. And you mentioned in the opener, which I loved, that there's one thing in common, that we can't take it with us when we die. The second thing in common is we don't know when we're going to die. Like, I bought my little magic ball here to say, hey, can we see that in the future? But I don't know the day I'm going to die. You don't know the day you're going to die. And just to take that point home, I saw in the Free Press last week, in the Dear Annie's part, this woman wrote in and said, my husband died suddenly and we didn't have a will. I had no idea that would be so important. So many decisions are out of my hands, and everything is taking 10 times longer than it would have if we had had a will.
That's frightening.
It's totally frightening. This woman goes on to say she's 40, has young children, and some of the assets are going to them. Who's going to manage that money? It is frightening. So doing a will, as scary as it is to some people to confront their death, it's more of a gift to your family and loved ones.
Right. So what are some of the myths associated with estate planning that people might have?
Here's my favorite. I don't need to do an estate plan because my family knows everything and I have shared accounts. They'll take care of it. So here's part of that myth. I left everything to my son. He'll distribute it to my other 3 children. Well, ethically, that son might do the right thing. However, there's limits on how much he can gift to people, and that's $14,000 a year. So that it just makes it way more complicated, and rules that people don't understand.
Right. And so what's the next myth?
I don't have much money, so it won't matter. So I don't have much money. I can just, it will go to the right places. Well, not necessarily, because there could be taxes and extra legal fees involved, so there isn't so much money going. It doesn't matter how much you have, a simple will can help out.
Because it's expensive if you don't have one.
Yes.
Okay, what's the next myth?
The next myth is my husband, partner, daughter knows what to do, so I'm okay. Well, they may know what to do, but this is a legal issue. I mean, I know what to do if I need my oil changed, but I'm not going in there to do the oil change. Sometimes you need a legal perspective in order to get it done. Also, might be missing pieces unless your husband, daughter, partner, son is a lawyer for the state you're in. They might miss something.
That goes to hiring a lawyer, which costs too much, so people say.
Hiring a lawyer costs money. I'm not going to deny that. However, it's probably less expensive than getting your plot and headstone, which a lot of people do. It's less expensive than not having a lawyer. Because I've had people say to me, oh my gosh, we closed my parents' estate, then we had to open it. Oh my gosh, I got a check. I didn't know what to do with it. You need that resource to help you out.
Right, or sometimes it ends up in court, which is going to cost you even more money.
And time, which then lowers how much money you have, or your house has to be taken care of in the meantime, and so the money gets dwindled before anyone can sell it.
And speaking of time, everyone thinks they've got plenty of time.
Right, I'm all set. I had a will done 25 years ago. Well, think back 25 years ago, who was alive, how old your children were. There's different laws. You have different assets. So just getting a check through with a lawyer to make sure all the assets are accounted for is going to save your loved ones. And I do make a point, it's for your loved ones you're doing this. I used to have conversations with my dad, and I'm like, we got to make sure your will's up to date. I'm a financial planner even at home. And he said, it doesn't matter, I'll be dead. Well, that's great.
True.
True. But you are causing more heartache for your loved ones.
And so, that's the other side of that too, is that things change. As you mentioned, kids get older. I know we just recently updated our information because we had put two relatives in charge because the kids were minors at the time. Well, now they're adults, so we wanted to change that.
Right. And, parents know their children of who might be best at this. And giving someone the chance to help as executor sounds like you're giving them a gift. But I had two people tell me that they had both been executor, so they didn't know which of their children they loved least who would to do this, and that was a joke. They were clear. But the point is, it's a lot of work.
Yes.
And you're not giving someone a gift, you're giving someone some work, but just make sure they know how to do that.
And make sure they know that they're supposed to do that.
Absolutely. Whenever you have any of this estate planning done, you want your loved ones to know what their documents are, possibly what it says. I think that's a great idea.
So now you've dispelled some key myths, but there are also excuses as well.
Yes, the biggest excuse I find is, I don't know what I want to do, so I'm going to not do anything. And that just means that someone else is going to make all the decisions for you. And I don't think that's what people want either.
Yeah. And so it's important to underscore that estate planning involves legal questions and considerations. And we talked about this in our August program with you, the importance of a financial advisor. What are some of the key legal pieces of estate planning?
You need a lawyer for the legal side. Financial people do not do the legal work. They might give you some guidance, but they don't do the legal work. Yep. The important thing is to find a lawyer you can talk to, because you have to be able to tell them everything. And if it's a couple, both people in the couple should be comfortable with this lawyer. Why do I even say that? Because one of you are going to die, and the other person has to deal with the lawyer.
Right.
You also need to be able to tell them everything. Everything meaning where all our money is, what it is, if we have issues with any of our children or family that we want to leave money to, or maybe we want to give it all to charity. And so keep that information under your wraps until we pass on. Whatever you want. They are a storage of safekeeping.
And so everybody needs three legal things.
Yes.
In your planning, you say.
Absolutely. So everyone in the state of Vermont and in this country needs three things. And I mean any age or property is. We need a will. A will is for after death. It tells you someone, the state, how to disperse your money and who's in control, who's the executor to handle all of my assets from my watch to my cars. Then you also need a power of attorney for financial. This is a document for when you're alive. With the rise of dementia or problems with people temporarily incapacitated, a power of attorney who's going to pay their bills, who's going to make sure the lights stay on, take care of their car payment. Essential. The third one is something we've all heard a lot about over the years, but is the healthcare proxy, or healthcare directive.
Yep.
In different states, they term different things, but that says who can make those decisions. If I'm up at the UVM Medical Center in Acoma, who can make my medical decisions for me because I'm not able to. So there's 3 different pieces, and a lawyer can help with all of those.
So let's go over some of these a little bit more in detail, what these things are and what they do. And I know you mentioned the power of attorney in the healthcare directive. Those are important because there's a greater likelihood that we will become incapacitated versus just a quick passing.
Absolutely. And I'll give you an example. I have a colleague who, after her son went to college, she went on I want to say a tier, but an educational expedition to make sure all parents had a healthcare proxy on their children, even if they're college age, because once they reach 18, if something happened to them, who's making those decisions for them? So there's an example we don't think of. We think of age. There's also dementia. So if someone's incapacitated, it's better to make your decisions now, what you want, and leave them there. So that's the healthcare one. The financial one just becomes important if you're out of the country, if there's any way you can't do it. And one of the biggest things for dementia, for brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries, and even concussions, people don't handle their money well under the stressful situations.
Right.
And it could be temporary that someone needs this help. But if you don't have a financial guardian in place, or they have to go to the court to appoint a financial guardian, which takes longer, and people tend to spend money in those situations. That's one of the things of bipolar, for example, is people spend more money than they have.
So are there other important documents that people should have?
Yes, there are some. And there's the legal documents as far as having a trust. That might be necessary. There also is the legal documents of having, if you have a business agreement, if you co-own a business, what's going to happen to your business. So there's other property along real estate and different things that you might want to trust, or some kind of other separate legal document, a business agreement. There's some documents that aren't legal that are also really important, letting your family know where you'd like to be buried, where your burial plot is. Just write it down and have something. Where would you like to be buried? And I always say put these things in writing, because then everybody can see the same thing. And I do mean writing, not your typed up on the computer.
Also, too, know where these documents are and have your family know where they are.
Thank you. Absolutely. If someone doesn't know, these documents do no good to you. I actually have a client who every year sends a sealed envelope to his brother, so that all the information's in there, where to find his will, what's in his investments, where he wants to be buried. And he says, don't open it unless you need it.
Yeah.
So clearly his brother, he trusts his brother, and there's no need for his brother to know it while he's alive, but he's ready for the inevitable that we don't know when it's going to happen.
Earlier in the program, we touched on some myths about estate planning. You also have some caution lights for people.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that know what you need and understand what you need. So sometimes you cannot dictate from the grave, for one example. Like, I want to leave $10,000 to my nephew so he'll pay off his college loans. Well, that's dictating from the grave. You don't know when you're going to die. You don't know if he'll still have loans. You don't know if that will be the best financial decision for him. Another one is there's an awful lot of Medicaid planning going on, which is building trusts and legal documents so that you have some money protected. Well, I think that can be great, except that back to we don't know what's going to happen. You might get hit by a bus and never even qualify for Medicaid. So don't jump ahead spending a lot of money on documents that you may not need.
And so you say this is not a set and forget situation as well. Update what you're doing.
Every 5 years, look at it. And that's just a rule of thumb. Or if the law changes or your life changes, you get married and you now have stepchildren, you might lose a spouse and get remarried. There's so many things that can happen in a period of 5 years. Just make sure you revisit it. The laws change as well.
And so done well, correctly, estate planning really is about peace of mind.
Peace of mind for you and for your loved ones. I have had more people tell me after they do it, and it's a hard job, that they felt so much better. one woman came in and said, I can die now. I'm like, what's wrong? And she said nothing.
No, not right now.
No,
but-
not right now. She said, I just feel ready. You'd be very surprised.
Right, and include your family in these conversations too. That's hugely important.
That is huge. Like, there might be someone in the family who wants your house. There may be someone who wants some of the furniture. Have those conversations. Make it part of daily life. I'm Irish, so this is typical of what the Irish talk about is death. Apparently, my grandmother in Ireland used to hang out her laying out outfit once a year. So she was preparing her way for death, and that's just a gift for other people.
Well, we're just about out of time, so folks, if you have any questions for Christine, you can reach her online at moneypiece.com, or you can call her phone number, which is 802-453-5913, and please send along questions that you have, and Christine will do her best to provide answers on an upcoming edition of Money Monday. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Judy.
Namaste.
Namaste. Stay well.
Yes. That's our program for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.